A sudden goodbye. We've decided to restructure the client relations department. Ruth, today will be your last day. The words floated in the air like an unpleasant smell that refused to go away. I sat in the sleek conference room, staring at Dominic Hayes, the new managing partner. He had only been with Franklin and Associates for 8 months, but he had already made big changes. His expression was carefully practiced, a mix of fake sympathy and cold professionalism. After 25 years? I asked. My voice was steady, even though my heart was pounding. Business decisions aren't personal, he said, sliding a manila folder across the table. HR has prepared a severance package for you, 2 months' salary and health benefits until the end of the quarter. Janice from HR sat beside him, nodding along. She avoided my eyes. This downsizing affects multiple departments, she said. It's not about your performance. But wasn't it? I was the oldest employee in client relations, 58 years old. My salary reflected my experience that had helped build this company. I had been here since Franklin and Associates was just a small legal consulting firm with big dreams. Now they were throwing me away. Does Arthur know about this? I asked. Arthur Franklin, the founder, had hired me 25 years ago. Dominic's jaw tightened. All partners were consulted. That wasn't an answer. Arthur had been in London for weeks, working on our European expansion. Best of luck in your future endeavors, Dominic said with a fake smile. Security will escort you out. Standard protocol. I knew. I had written that protocol myself, 12 years ago. The end of an era. My name is Ruth Pearson. Until 10 minutes ago, I was the Senior Director of Client Relations at Franklin and Associates, one of Boston's top legal consulting firms. For 25 years, I had dedicated my career to building client relationships. I made sure they felt valued beyond their payments. While other firms treated clients like numbers, I ensured that we were different. I learned their business, their struggles, their needs. Now, I was being discarded like an old file. A security guard hovered near my desk as I packed my belongings. Framed photos from charity events with clients, thank you notes, the crystal paperweight Arthur had given me on my 20th anniversary. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Catherine Winters, CEO of Winters Healthcare, our biggest client. Ruth, heard troubling rumors about changes at FA. Our quarterly review is next week. Call me ASAP. I looked up. Dominic was in his office, already on a call, probably damage control. He didn't understand. None of them did. Client relationships couldn't be reassigned with a memo. They were built over years of trust and care. And I had just been cut off from 25 years' worth of them. A career built on trust. I joined Franklin and Associates in 1998. Back then, we were a small firm in a half-empty office space. Arthur Franklin was 42, ambitious, and determined to build a company that valued relationships more than billable hours. Numbers are the language of business, he had told me during my interview, but relationships are its heart. Over the years, I took those words to heart. While others chased promotions, I focused on becoming irreplaceable to our clients. I knew their kids' names, their company milestones, their worries. I made sure they saw us as trusted advisors, not just another firm. You're the relationship architect, Arthur had said at my 20th anniversary celebration. You built the foundation we stand on. Then, things started to change. The shift in leadership. 2 years ago, Franklin and Associates brought in outside investors. New partners joined. Suddenly, efficiency and numbers mattered more than relationships. Dominic Hayes was the most ruthless of them all. Under his leadership, turnover increased by 40%. Arthur's motto, clients first, had been replaced with Dominic's maximum value extraction. I had raised concerns. We're sacrificing long-term stability for short-term profit, I warned in meetings. Dominic barely looked at me. The market is changing. Ruth, adapt or die. Some of our processes are outdated. Over time, I was excluded. Emails stopped including me. Important meetings happened without me. Younger team members were quietly introduced to my clients as secondary contacts. Still, I thought my work, my relationships, would protect me. I was wrong. The reality sinks in. 3 days later, I sat in my apartment, staring at job listings. My phone was silent except for sympathetic messages from old colleagues. My LinkedIn profile was suddenly popular. Termination had made me interesting. Then my landline rang. I almost ignored it, but I recognized the number. Hello? Ruth, it's Arthur. His British accent was tense. I just landed from London and heard what happened. This wasn't authorized by me. Relief, anger, betrayal, a mix of emotions hit me at once. It happened anyway, I said. Dominic said all partners agreed. They pushed it through while I was overseas. They claimed it was necessary to meet investor expectations. 25 years, Arthur, and I got a 10-minute meeting and a security escort. You deserved better, he admitted. I want to fix this. I can bring you back. Say it was a mistake. I closed my eyes. It's not that simple, I said. Dominic called me legacy fat. Silence. He understood. In the corporate world, once leadership undermined you, you were done. There was no going back. Not really. The meeting at the Harvest. I walked into the Harvest, a quiet restaurant on the east side of town, and immediately spotted Arthur. He was already seated at a corner table, looking tired and stressed. His normally well-groomed appearance was slightly disheveled, and there were dark circles under his eyes. "Thank you for coming," he said the moment I sat down. His voice carried a sense of urgency, almost desperation. I nodded but remained silent. I wanted to hear what he had to say. "I've been trying to fix this situation," he continued, rubbing his forehead, "but Dominic is blocking me at every turn. He's convinced the board that letting you go was necessary for modernizing our approach." I raised an eyebrow. "And how are the clients responding to this so-called modernization?" Arthur sighed and looked down at the table. "Not well," he admitted. "Catherine Winters has demanded a meeting with the entire executive team. Douglas from Archer Pharmaceuticals is reviewing their options. 3 smaller clients have already terminated their contracts." I took a sip of my water, letting the silence stretch between us. Arthur leaned forward. "Here's what I'm proposing. I create a new position, Chief Client Officer. You'd report directly to me, bypassing Dominic entirely. The role would come with better compensation and more autonomy." On the surface, it sounded like everything I had ever wanted. Just a week ago, I would have jumped at this offer, but something about the way Arthur looked at me made me pause. His concern wasn't just for the company, there was something else. "What aren't you telling me, Arthur?" He hesitated, then sighed. "Dominic is trying to push me into early retirement. He's consolidating power, gathering allies among the younger partners. If we lose more clients, he'll use it as leverage to force me out." And there it was, the real reason he wanted me back. This wasn't about fixing a mistake or valuing my contributions. Arthur needed me to save him from Dominic. I smiled slightly, but it didn't reach my eyes. "I'm sorry, Arthur, but I already have meetings scheduled with other firms. You understand, business decisions aren't personal." His face fell, and for the first time in our conversation, he looked genuinely defeated. Using Dominic's own words against him was more satisfying than I expected. Almost. Exploring new opportunities. Over the next week, I met with all 3 firms that Catherine Winters had recommended. Each meeting followed a predictable pattern: polite greetings, glowing praise for my client relationship skills, thinly veiled questions about which clients might follow me, and increasingly generous offers. One firm, Blackwell Consulting, stood out. They were mid-sized but shared the same values Franklin Associates once had before greed and corporate politics took over. Their offer included an equity partnership, something Franklin Associates had never granted me despite my years of dedication. Meanwhile, things at Franklin Associates were unraveling faster than I had anticipated. Industry blogs reported rising client dissatisfaction and growing tension among the leadership. My former assistant, Thomas, kept me updated via text. "Thomas," Catherine Winters stormed out of the exec meeting. She was furious. "Thomas, Douglas from Archer cancelled their quarterly review. Thomas, even Westridge Manufacturing is looking at other firms, and you know how loyal they are." The dominoes were falling. Then, the call came. The call that changed everything. I was reviewing Blackwell's offer when my phone rang. "Ruth Pearson," I answered. "Miss Pearson, this is Jeffrey Hammond from the Boston Business Journal." I straightened in my chair. The BBJ was the most influential business publication in the city. "I'm working on a story about recent leadership changes at Franklin Associates and their impact on client relationships. Several sources have mentioned your name. Would you be willing to comment?" This was dangerous territory. Anything I said could be twisted and used against me. "I'm not comfortable discussing internal matters at Franklin Associates." I said cautiously. Understandable, Hammond replied, but what about the fact that 7 major clients have already announced they're terminating their contracts? Sources suggest this exodus is linked directly to your departure. 7 clients? That was more than I expected. I can't speak to clients' business decisions, I said. There are many factors in selecting consulting partners. Of course, he said, the sound of typing in the background. One more thing. Any comment on the letter signed by 26 of Franklin Associates' top clients demanding that Arthur Franklin replace Dominic Hayes as managing partner? I nearly dropped my phone. I have no knowledge of such a letter. The turning point. After hanging up, I sat in stunned silence. 26 clients, an organized demand for change, and I hadn't orchestrated any of it. A new text from Thomas lit up my screen. Thomas, emergency all-hands meeting tomorrow. Partners flying in from everywhere. Dominic looks like he's about to have a stroke. An hour later, Arthur called. Did you organize this client revolt? He demanded, his voice sharp. I've done nothing, Arthur. I haven't reached out to a single client. Then how do you explain this? His voice cracked. 70% of our client base is threatening to leave. The board is panicking. Investors are demanding answers. I paused. Maybe they value relationships over cost-cutting. This isn't a joke, Ruth. 25 years of building this firm, and it could collapse in 25 days. There was a bitter satisfaction in hearing his desperation. After all, he hadn't lifted a finger when Dominic pushed me out. What do you want from me, Arthur? Come back, he pleaded, not as chief client officer, as a full equity partner. Help me stabilize this. I hesitated. Partnership, the recognition I had deserved for years, but was it worth going back? And Dominic? Arthur's tone darkened. The board meets tonight. His future will be decided before tomorrow's all-hands meeting. The final decision. Sleep eluded me. I paced my apartment, weighing my options. If I returned, I'd face the colleagues who stayed silent when I was forced out. I'd have to navigate Dominic's downfall, a downfall I hadn't engineered but would surely be blamed for. By 6 a.m., I had made my decision. I called Catherine Goldstein, Blackwell's senior partner. I'm going with Blackwell. Smart choice, she said. They'll be thrilled. But I have one condition, I added. Catherine listened and then laughed. Ruthless Ruth. I love it. I'll present it this morning. At 8:45 a.m., I walked into Franklin Associates for the first time since my termination. And I was ready.